Hi there, Kendra Tolbert here. I'm a registered dietitian and yoga teacher, and I specialize in fertility and women's health. And today I have our second video in our 8-part series all about the Live Fertile philosophy, which is a philosophy with 7 different principles, all chosen and designed to support your reproductive health and your overall well-being so you can truly create life mindfully. In part 2, we're going to take a look at our very first principle in the Live Fertile philosophy, and that's fun movement. And fun movement is exactly what it sounds like. It's all about enjoyable physical activity. That can be planned workouts, that can be spontaneous movement that you just do throughout the day. It can be everyday activities of life, gardening, cleaning your house, whatever it might be. If you enjoy doing it and it gets you moving, then it counts as fun movement. And there's a reason that I emphasize the fun part and the enjoyment part. I think so often when we think about exercise or physical activity, we think of things that we have to do simply for the sake of our health, as opposed to things that we get to do because they're enjoyable and they happen to benefit our health. So that can be things like dance, that can be things like taking your dog for a walk, that can be things like going on a hike, going for a swim. Pretty much like I said, anything that gets you moving and that you're actually motivated to do simply because of the pleasure of it, that's really what we're talking about here. In just a moment, we're going to take a look at what the science says around finding that sweet spot, exactly how much is too much for most people when they're trying to conceive. But before I do that, I really want to stress the importance of listening to your own body. I love science, I have degrees to prove it, but I believe that the truest wisdom comes from our own bodies and our own experiences. I think sometimes when we're trying really hard to follow all the rules, we miss out on what our body actually wants from us. And so I'm going to continue to encourage you to listen to that, because this series really is all about defining fertile and fertility for yourself, and then discovering what that feels like to you, and then embodying that. Really bringing that intangible to life and living it out, because that's what it means to live fertile. One last thing before we take a look at what the research says. Let's take a look at what traditional wisdom has to teach us. And by traditional wisdom, I'm thinking of different traditional medicine forms. I'm also just thinking of kind of common sense things that feel very intuitive and they just make sense to us. So when we take a look at those sorts of things, we see that there is this emphasis on a balance of energy and this free-flowing movement of energy. And so if we think about what most of us do most days, we sit a great deal. So things aren't flowing freely when we're constantly seated. And also a lot of us have learned to constantly hold in our stomachs for any number of reasons, whether because it's what we do when we feel anxious or stressed, or if it's because it's what we do because we want to look smaller. We'll talk about that another time. And a lot of us also wear very constrictive things around our stomach. So that's our pelvis, that's where our reproductive organs are. We really want things to move freely there in order to nurture them. And so movement definitely encourages that, right? So it encourages circulation. It allows, or really I should say, enhances our body's ability to carry nourishment to our organs and carry waste away from our organs. So movement is so important for those reasons, and also because it feels good. Our bodies were clearly made to move. We have ligaments and joints and muscles, and things are innervated, and our brain connects to our body so that it can move. I think that lets us know that we were designed to move, and for many of us, we're not doing exactly what we were designed to do. So hopefully, seeing it more as something that you get to do to support yourself, rather than something that you have to do for your health or to be a certain size, encourages you to begin to explore it in a new and hopefully enjoyable way. Now for the science. When we take a look at the science around IVF and exercise, more than 4 hours a week for 1 to 9 years before IVF was actually linked to poor outcomes, and cardio specifically was linked to reduced live birth rates. And then when it came to time to conception, how long it takes to actually become pregnant, vigorous activity was linked to a longer time to pregnancy or longer time to conception. And lastly, those who exercise to exhaustion were 2.3 times more likely to experience difficulty conceiving. So we can see that that whole go hard or go home idea really has no place in fertility. So I think your best bet is to definitely listen to your body and to try to stick to more moderate exercise, an exercise that feels good. I'll keep saying that again and again and again because I don't feel like we hear that message enough. It's really important that we find pleasure in what we do, and that's also going to help us to be more consistent with it, which is the key to success, in my opinion. So for this week, I encourage you to take a look at last week's prompts from the journal exercise. If you didn't have a chance to do that yet, you can head to the description box below where I have a link to both the blog post and the video so that you can get started with that. And once you do, take a look at your answers. What do your answers tell you about how you'd like to feel? Or are there any words that you associate with different forms of movement? If so, those are the types of movement that you want to explore. So let's say, for example, one of your words associated with fertility or fertile was sensual. So then what types of movement feel sensual to you? Maybe it's like a sensual floor work sort of class, maybe it's belly dance or salsa or anything else that you associate with that word. And so take a look at your words, see which forms of movement make you think of that word or you associate with that word, and then begin to explore it. See how you feel throughout your day when you incorporate that type of movement into your life. And if you need some help coming up with some ideas, I have another link in the description box below where I listed out over 100 types of movement that you might enjoy. So it's always nice to get some new ideas. I know it can get a little stale and we can get stuck in a rut. So hopefully these ideas help you and inspire you to try something new. The other thing is, at the end of this week, I have a bit of a bonus video for you. It is a new yoga sequence for fertility, and it's going to incorporate elements of dance and just more circular or sensual movement into it. So I hope that you enjoy that, and I hope that you find that that's very supportive as you begin to explore what it looks like to embody fertility. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope that you have fun exploring these different forms of movement. I will see you at the end of the week and I will see you again next week as we begin to explore our second principle, enjoyable nourishment. So we're going to be talking all about nutrition and pleasure, and I'm a huge fan of both. So I will see you then. Until then, be well and bye for now.